Hello, my name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, the Berlin-based Irish singer-songwriter Jamie Noone talks to us about his background, his move to Germany, the Berlin music scene, the culture shocks and political differences between Ireland and Germany, starting his debut record Day Parade from scratch after his laptop was fried, his upcoming second album, and much more.
Hello?
Hey Jamie, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Dear Grandman, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I have a bit of an issue with the camera here at the moment.
Dude, it's all
I'll
good for
try
me.
and sort it out. Uh, yeah, and I'd say we can fire ahead, and yeah, if I get it sorted halfway through, you'll see me pop up.
Perfect, man. Yeah, let's start with, I guess, kind of the sort of boring, very basic question. Which is a bit about your background, how you got into music. Yeah, I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Dublin originally,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been so I was working as a kind of musician for from around 2018, 2019, was doing a few shows around Dublin, but no, nothing major. By the way, I think I can get my video sorted now. Can you see
Ah,
me all
there we
right?
go. How's it going? You can see fine. How
Yeah,
are you?
yeah, yes, yeah, good. Um,
I love the
yeah,
Joyce tattoo, by the way.
it's Kavanagh actually.
Oh, is that Kavanagh? My
That's
apologies. Yeah,
Patrick Kavanagh. Yeah,
I see a guy with glasses. I just think Joyce.
yeah, fair enough. And the bowler hat as well.
Please tell me I'm not the only one to fuck that up.
No, you're not. You won't be
Thank
the
God.
last neither.
Sorry, as you were saying, you've been playing around about 2018, 19.
Yeah, so it wasn't really anything major. I was just kind of doing a few shows, trying to showcase a few of the original tunes, and kind of covers here and there. But it was only until 2020 that I started releasing music on Spotify,
Yeah.
and from that point on, in after around October, no, around August in 2020, I then moved to Berlin, where I've been based ever since. And from there, we've kind of got a band together, and we then released the my debut album back in 2023, and now we're working on the second one at the moment.
So, just before we get onto that, I was going to ask, just like, what sort of influence were you interested in? Like, what sort of music were kind of influencing you? And generally, how did you kind of get into playing music even before that?
Well, it's the great tradition of just sing songs in the gaff, like singing old
Yeah.
trad songs. That was definitely the initial draw to it. Do you know what I mean? Like it was Luke Kelly blaring on the background.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad's busted CD player. Like, yeah, that would have been one. And then, yeah, just being brought to pubs. Trad was definitely a big influence. And then listening to like my mom would be more of the disco influence.
Yeah.
Gloria Gaynor, then we'd be playing in the next room, and
Now it's all starting to make
uh,
sense.
yeah.
No, I can
But
imagine, like, just you between these two walls, just hearing this, and then that's your idea of what music is.
yeah, but that was it. Like there was like my sister played piano, and then my dad he'd probably kill me for telling the story, but like he's he would be one of the main people that was singing, but man is in his own pocket with regards to time, and
Yeah.
he tried to do bell lessons in town, and he got asked to leave after the second lesson. So, yeah, he's fucking up everyone in the circle. So like it was mainly we were just kind of freewheeling it, I think. And then I picked up the guitar then eventually.
So it's fair to
I
say you
kind
didn't
of
get your musical talents from your dad.
Do you know what? Like, I did to some degree, because he can hold the tune and he can
Yeah.
sing it, but like, fucking God forbid anyone that tries to play guitar alongside it. With all love being said.
Yes, I guess like playing with like Lars Ulrich or something like that, you know.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, that's it.
I was thinking of the timeline there. You mentioned you moved to Berlin in 2020, so I'm assuming lockdowns were still going down over there. So what was that like, I guess, moving during that time?
Yeah, do you know what? It wasn't as the lockdowns, from what I remember, the lockdown at that point in time wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
It eventually got much worse in Berlin, though.
yeah,
I'd say it would have been late 2020. Clubs and put like public spaces and kind of private spaces like clubs and pubs would have opened up. Whereas in Ireland, we still had that fucking ridiculous
yeah,
€10 for a sandwich and a pint deal or whatever it
yeah.
was.
Which
Um,
surprisingly hasn't gone away since.
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, it's minus the sandwiches, €9 for a pint.
Yeah. In fact, we
But
didn't know how good we had it.
yeah, well, this is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
fucking any excuse to jack it up. But we But do you know what? It was all right for around three or 4 months, and
Yeah.
then it went into a much harsher lockdown where we had curfews, which was a pain in fairness. So it like it from what I was escaping here eventually came back to kick you in the gut then after. But yeah, that would have been the kind of, and then everything opened up pretty much the same time as everywhere else, I think.
What kind of inspired the move?
Well, like the alternative, like I was living in my man dad's gaff
Hmm.
at the time with my partner, because we all like just moved in together for lockdown, and yeah, I kind of just got a cabin fever as a lot of people did, and I knew I wanted to record the album, and it was kind of grating on me that I hadn't done a big project, so to speak, so I went over initially to do that. And also, like, yeah, it's more affordable. And from what I understood, anyway, at the time, I don't know how different it is now, but it was there just seemed to be more freedom afforded to you in terms of your kind of creativity, and that's purely down to the space because there was more space to create. Do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
more recording spaces. It's not like that's no comment at all on Dublin, because Dublin's always been, and I hopefully think always will be, uh, one of the eight cultural epicenters of at least Europe with regard to music. Like,
Yeah.
but we just had space over there, and we still do. But now it's turning into a bit of a tip at the moment, but for full honesty, with regards to the politics of it.
Sure.
But yeah, it's you can, like, it was unheard of to be able to pay 50 quid for a room to rent, a day a week. For out of them, every week for a month,
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
Berlin had that.
At least you didn't move there just as like alternative for Deutschland or getting in or something.
Yeah, Jesus, and I nearly got there.
Yeah.
Although I will
So
say, it's fucking at that moment, it's political suppression is at an all-time high, so
yeah, man.
it's
I
you
don't
haven't
know how
escaped
much you
too
want to
much.
talk about this, but like, for me, like looking at some of the shutdowns, like Palestinian protests and stuff like that, it's just like, oh,
Hmm.
oof, it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
like we can talk about, like, I set up an event 2000 in early 2024. I was a fundraiser for Palestine.
Yeah,
And I approached, I'd say it must have been around 30 different bars and venues, and 29 of them essentially told me to fuck off.
yeah.
You know, apologies for the profanity as well. I don't know
Absolutely.
if
No, no, say what you
it
want.
sounded
To be fair, I was the first one to say fuck in this interview, so it's grand.
it's grand, yeah,
I
yeah.
set the precedent for naughty language.
Yeah, this is parlance. I No, but 29 of them told me to fucking do one, basically, that I'm not
Yeah,
touching it with a 10 foot pole. And then eventually we got this cafe. It's a kind of left wing Kurdish cafe
yeah,
called Cafe Caronfield, and the people in there are great, and we were able to do it. But but I thought that was kind of indicative of the situation. That was last year. That was early last year. That they wouldn't touch it then, and it's even worse now. Like I know people
Yeah.
who've gotten like we've been to most of the like, majority of the protests, and it's never violent. It's the protesters are never violent. The police side just have a complete abuse of power.
Yeah.
And it's come here. Look, we like it's been spoken about, maybe not enough. But they've really, I've noticed a massive change in the police side there at the moment. It's not that far a stretch to call it, fascist, really.
Mm.
In some ways, it's yeah, like,
No,
I
no,
could go on
I'm
about it,
interested in this, but like I just whatever you're comfortable talking about, I don't mind. Like I'm not going to push it too much.
Yeah, but no, but like, look, it's still it has some like the city is still full of character,
Yeah.
and you still believe that this spirit is there, and um it's it's important, I think, that people are still demonstrating their at least freedom of speech,
Hmm.
it's the people are on the ground, they're doing some cracking work. So
Yeah.
no, I was going to say long may it continue, but hopefully this ceases to continue. Fucking
Yeah.
the
I mean,
current
I should
genocide.
probably know, as you and I are talking, like just yesterday, Israel hit Iran for the first time. So we'll see what
Yeah,
happens, I guess. Yeah. So I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
We're still at the moment as we're speaking. Like who knows by the time this goes up what will happen? But for context, I mean that just happened yesterday as you and I are talking. So I think everyone's just
Yeah.
kind of like, what the fuck, you know? It's like
No.
I came home from a gig last night. And it was like 1 in the morning when it happened, or something, maybe like a little later, 2 in the morning, and I was just like
Mm,
read. I just like saw. It, I was like, oh, what the fuck? So I'm like, oof. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
apparently there are
it's
reports in that Netanyahu's now in Greece again. Can't substantiate it, but that's what I heard. So
well,
play
that's
it safe.
yeah, like, but that begs the other question: how are the EU allowing this war criminal
Yeah.
into their borders?
Yeah. Fucking
Yeah,
sick, man.
yeah, globe. Yeah, I mean, like, UN. I remember being. I don't know if you want to keep talking politics, but
No, absolutely. I don't
uh,
mind, man. Whatever you want to talk about.
but I remember being in Bosnia 2 years ago, and it was in
Yeah.
Srebrenica, where the what happened there.
Hmm.
Yeah, but, like, it's just to clarify, that's essentially where the term genocide came into effect
Yeah.
with in the United Nations. The United Nations couldn't
And
do
that's
anything there.
if I'm correct in saying some places still even don't recognize that.
Yeah, but Serbia don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's and Russia I don't think as well, because they're allies, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong in saying that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was at that point you realized, like, how useless the UN can be,
Yeah.
and then, like, you see the ongoing situation, the ongoing massacre. It's you realize it even further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the worst time in my life to witness that anyway. In the time that I've been alive, I mean, not my life personally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I'm not,
yeah,
I'm not trying to
yeah.
be like, oh my God, it's about me, you know?
No, 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 no.
Going back then, I guess to the move to Berlin. I mean, was Berlin selected specifically for any reason, or was it kind of like you just wanted to move and that seemed like a good place for what you were trying to do?
Yeah, yeah, basically. I had a few pals who were living over there. A few musician pals as well, that we were able to kind of put the band together.
Yeah,
Um, at that point as well, I had an apartment offered to me, which was unheard of, really, like,
yeah,
So I kind of had to jump on that. And I had been to Berlin back when I was, God, it must have been like when I was 18 or 19. I fell in love with the place. Now, it was only my second time being in Berlin, that was when I moved. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I just, it still stands, that it has that kind of looseness to it, that
Yeah.
I do love, like.
I had an uncle actually moved to Berlin actually in the early 70s. I think it would have been around 72 or 73. And he was like, yeah, I
All
went
right.
there and I didn't, I think it was a girlfriend, he had a German girlfriend, that's what he moved. And he was like, yeah, I went over, didn't speak like a word of German. And then he came back years later to retire here in Ireland. And It's funny because like now sometimes he struggle because like with German expressions he's trying to translate them to English and he just doesn't know what the term is and stuff like that. Have you been picking up the language, you think?
Yeah, yes, and no, like it definitely could be better,
Yeah,
but no, I get by with it for sure. Like
yeah,
you know you have to one thing about learning German, from what I was told anyway, so you kind of need to abandon a lot of your idea of how a language works
yeah,
because if you're speaking English rather because like it's a completely different sentence structure and
yeah.
um
It's kind of like learning
yeah
Irish. The sentence structure is just totally different.
yeah, right enough, right
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, the two things I know about German, the German languages, A, they capitalize all their nouns, and B, they just fucking squash every word together to make a new word. That's the two
Yeah,
things I
yeah,
know about the German language. Was
yeah,
it
yeah.
was it culture
It's
shock in
a
any way when you got there? Was there something that was kind of like I don't know, a little different, or was it kind of easy to acclimatize to?
it was easy enough to acclimatize to it, but yeah, I remember the second day that I got there, um, I got a train the wrong way,
Yeah.
and but I still had a ticket, and I just hopped on the other platform and got the train back, and I got charged 80 quid. I was like, for fuck's sake, right? Welcome to fucking Germany.
At least the Lewis only
It-
charged you 50.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know what? The big thing is the bureaucracy in Germany is just it's I won't even bore you with it, but there's like nothing's done online. It's all
Yeah.
like you have to have a big folder and expect the worst when you come down to your letterbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it back in time, they're very punctual. It's not like here where it's like, oh, sorry, I missed it. You know what I mean? And then they're like,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
we'll give you a 3 year extension.
yeah.
When it came
Yeah, 100%.
when it came to making your album, Day Parade, you did it over in Berlin, but were the songs all written in Ireland, or were you still kind of coming from material when you moved?
All do you know, like with that album, I had an album written um in Ireland, but I my laptop all the files got corrupted and
Yeah.
I couldn't get it back. So I
Did you just save them to the cloud or anything? Like,
no
no.
no learn the hard way,
Yeah.
definitely.
It happens
You
to us
know,
all.
yeah. Well, do you know what it was? The actual I left it up in my man dad's attic and left the window open and we went out for 2 days and it pissed rain. I came
Yeah.
back and it was in a puddle. I was like, oh, yeah. It was not ideal, but so do you know what? Like with that, it was actually it gave me an opportunity to just kind of start anew, um, which that is where the Day Parade was born from. So all the tunes were essentially written within 2022, I would say. The ones that stayed on the album, because there was 5 or 6 different variations. I think I wrote around 30 songs for that album, and 8 of them or 7 of them, I think, made it to the album. Uh, but they would have all been from yeah, from the perspective of Berlin and written in Berlin.
Yeah, to some degree, actually, I know it's like a sad thing to happen with your laptop and all, but like sometimes there is actually kind of a freedom in these like freak accidents happening because like when you do have to kind of rebuild, it makes you reevaluate what you're doing in a lot of ways, and
Hmm.
you kind of go like, oh, actually, maybe you know, 'cause I feel like when you have material that you have down, you kind of feel a bit tethered to it. I don't know if you feel that way, but you kind of feel like I have to finish this or expand on this before I can move on to the next thing. Where to some degree it
100%.
kind of frees you up a little bit. It takes the weight off your shoulder, you know?
Yeah, as well as that too. If you're sat on songs like that, if you're sat on songs for like a couple of years, and yeah, and you've just moved on as a person
Yeah,
from the place that you wrote that from, um it's very hard to kind of not rehash them, but it's much harder to kind of present that as part of you. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? If it's no longer you, you know what I mean?
yeah.
If that makes sense.
I was reading
Yeah,
some of your
I
pieces
completely
actually
agree.
in on Substack, and you know, you were talking about like just going around Dublin and stuff, and I was interested in kind of the things that kind of fuel your fire as a writer. I mean, do you feel that I don't know, do you go looking for inspiration? Do you feel like okay, I have to kind of I have to kind of do art now, if that makes sense, or do you kind of just go,
Mm.
do you kind of just let it flow naturally, whatever kind of occurs to you?
Let it flow naturally, I would
Yeah,
say. Yeah, it's funny. Like it's just I know I'd write all the time. I'd write nearly every day.
yeah.
But that's just out of habit, really, in that regard. But like some of the songs, the short, like it. Even, see, I'd write a lot of like it'd be like poems or kind of half kind of or like afterthoughts or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes I can go a week without even thinking about it, and then on a day you can write four. Do you know?
Hmm.
And that's kind of that I've learned to kind of accept. No, as I said, it kind of shows me. I'd write regularly in any way, but like if I'm actually writing something substantial, I just kind of let it flow because otherwise, I'm just writing shite. You know, like I know it's good, and it works for some people that they have a
Yeah,
regimen and this schedule. I just doesn't work for me. Like
yeah.
I just
I can't remember
I
who it
know
was.
that's coming,
Good.
or at least I hope it is. You know.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I remember there was some artist who said they had to write every day, but like not just for material, like just to kind of keep the just keeping that mindset of like creating, if that makes sense. But like it
Yeah.
wasn't for
Yeah.
material to actually release. It was just sort of like, just to kind of put pen to paper and just sort of go, okay, I have something for today. And I don't know if that like works for people. I don't know. I wouldn't be that kind of inclined, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like there'd be times where, if I'm on my phone, um, effectively staring into the void, I'm like, all right, I'll have to catch myself and be like, okay, well, if you decide to spend 10 minutes doing this, that 10 minutes could be better used.
Yeah,
Even drawing something, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like I remember I saw some reel on Instagram of a Scottish girl, and she was talking about AI and ChatGPT.
Hmm.
And she just said, "What happened to having to think?
Yeah.
What happened to like? Oh no, I'll be back to you with that. I'm going to go off and have a think about it. Bring
Yeah.
back having to think." And I know it was kind of a piss take video, but it's just there's part of me that is kind of I relate or I can see too much relatability in that. The
Yeah,
current fucking
absolutely. The AI
path.
thing is interesting too because like some people are using it to quote unquote enhance their work, and other people are
Mm.
totally rejecting it. Like, no, AI is like evil. What's your perspective on AI, I guess, as a technology?
Um, well, as a technology, I think it has like the possibilities are pretty like they're hard to fathom. Do you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
it's it's more like we've had technology in the past that we didn't know what to do with, and we've used it pretty destructively. And I just hope that we've learned from our lessons, but I don't think we have. But
No.
I, like
Human beings don't learn at all.
no, no. What is it? Those who fail to remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think with AI, it's like I do believe that I think being a complete purist with regards to your art and to your writing is completely understandable.
Yeah.
And I'd be very much not. I'd be inclined in that direction. But I will say that there's like going forward to reject AI as part of your daily life is maybe a little naive because it's not going anywhere. Like it's here to stay, and I think the more familiar you are with it without necessarily feeding into it, I think might be a right move. But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel bad for like my parents' generation. You know, like our
Yeah, I
our,
know. I
our
was thinking about
folks.
that
Like
too. Like my ma gets like tricked by AI all the time. I'm like, oh my God.
yeah, oh sure, I do too. Like
Yeah,
you know what
I
I mean?
know, and
It's
that's the thing. I can't be
like
sanctimonious about it because I'm like, I'm doubting myself. I'm like, fuck, is this AI? Is this not? I think it's getting a little too advanced. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, there was
Do you
an
ever see that
AI.
thing?
There's
The big thing was someone put a thing. They sent a prompt to an AI generated video, which was
right.
Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it first looked like absolute shit. It looked terrible. It looked awful, and then like
Oh
a
yeah,
year
he had
later,
like
they
six
gave the
six
same
fingers.
prompt. Yeah, and then like a year later, they gave the same prompt, and it looked almost real. There wasn't quite. You could still tell, but like I'm like, oh my God, it's advancing. You know what I mean?
I saw one the other day, and it was news weather reports,
Yeah.
and there's bears fighting in the background, and
Yeah.
I didn't even I showed it to my ma. Went up, so I'm back in Dublin now because
Yeah.
we're playing a show tomorrow. Um, but I was in the gaff and I showed it to her and she was like, Jesus, I'm like, is your one safe? I was like, it's bollocks, like it's complete AI, but like,
Yeah.
do you know, there needs to be like a watermark or something, like,
Yeah,
you
I
know what
don't
I
know
mean?
what's gonna happen. Like, I
We're
did.
in the Wild West there, like.
Yeah, absolutely. My thing is like I definitely think it's gonna get regulated sooner rather than later. But I just hope that the people who are regulating actually kind of understand the technology, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's the importance of the likes of ethics to be used in that. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if it's just if it's all based on a profit driven model, well then like our interests are not being kept at heart. Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
it'd be more I suppose fucking looking at modern governments, it's more profit driven than it is anything, especially in this country.
hmm,
But but there needs to be a more kind of needs to be governance from an ethical point of view on it, I think. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, and it has
yeah,
to.
you know,
Like I was thinking, like my big thing is, I think like there's going to be a defamation court case sometime due to AI, and I'm always like, the first person, the first judge who has to rule over an AI court case is going to set precedent then going forward. So I hope like the judge knows what they're doing, because then that's going to be the reference point, for every case afterwards. That's my
yeah,
big
but that's
concern.
like, and not to be ageist here at all, but like you would need to get like possibly a young tech
Yeah,
savvy judge to come in, like like some of the questions thrown at Meta, like
yeah,
or TikTok. You remember seeing
yeah,
them?
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
When they
know,
had Mark Zuckerberg on the court case, and yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, fuck that shrill of a man, but
You're now
yeah,
banned on all meta platforms, for the
yeah.
way.
Oh, go for it. I could do without it. But some of the questions thrown to him, it's just that like they clearly they hadn't a clue when came to the technology that they were trying to govern, and
Yeah, totally.
how does that make sense?
Yeah, I
How
know.
are these people creating the laws if they don't understand what they're creating laws over?
Yeah, that's why you have to bring in the experts, but they don't.
No,
But that's always the
100%.
problem, man. Like again, I'll get off this now, but like I just want to say, like, yeah, sometimes like when politicians are making decisions for others to heed, it's like okay, that's fine, but you have to converse with the people who actually know what they're dealing with here. And I just feel like that's not really, I don't know, implemented. I feel like a lot of the times you
Yeah.
see certain regulations coming in for, like, actually, I don't know if you know this, but like there over here, like, obviously cannabis is legal, but for some reason the strain HHC isn't. It's like a loophole,
Oh, really?
and they're planning
Yeah.
on criminalizing them, trying to close that loophole. And a bunch of people are like, I actually use that for like mental health, like legitimately use it for things like that. And it's like, but will they get a
Yeah.
voice? Will they be able to go, "Hey, actually, can I just make my case and why this should be preserved?" And I don't think they will. That, like, shit like that just kind of pissed me off. There was
Hmm.
years ago they brought in what was called the Nordic model, which was it
Oh,
was it was the
yeah.
thing for prostitution. It was like it was making it
Okay.
legal to sell but illegal to purchase. But a lot of people who were sex workers were like, actually, this is a really
Yeah.
bad model because it's been tested in Scandinavia and it doesn't work there and all that. But they just kind of implement shit. It's like, I don't know. They don't. I just feel like they're not looking at the reference points and actually listening to people whose lives it's going to impact. If that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, well, like, look here, that it's I didn't know about any of that.
Yeah.
But it's the
I read too much
but it
news.
no, I feel it. It's the um same kind of fissure of logic with all of these with the successive governments that we've had, that it's short term thinking. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's copy and pasting with it because they know that their buddies will be taking over in the next 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
then they can pass it on and they can at least say we made an attempt at it. You know?
Yeah. Especially in this country, man. I can never tell who's the fucking Taoiseach this week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, Sam Harris this week. No, it's Micheál Martin. Oh, no, it's back to Leo somehow. In a few years, like, give it a month, it'll be fucking Bertie Ahern again or something.
Yeah, there was the one finance minister without a bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, waffles.
Going back to your music then, so when you went to Berlin, I mean, how did you find the music scene there? I mean, and did the kind of music you were encountering there inspire you in any way?
Yeah, but you know, when I first moved over, it took me a while to kind of find my group, um, find my scene rather.
Yeah,
Uh, so like, because obviously it's very like electronic, it's a lot of techno and
yeah,
as much as I do appreciate them, it's like if you listen to my music, there's not really that much kind of influence in it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Not, yeah, yeah. Although with that, I've collaborated with a lot of techno artists, which there'll be songs coming out soon enough. But uh, it took me around a year and a half, and then I found the folk scene, um, with the likes of James Michael Rogers, Els there, Mark Lockery, a lot of big good pals of mine, but like phenomenal artists over there. Um, there's a bar called Space Medusa that would have done a lot of the kind of it would have been a great meeting point for a lot of the independent folk scene. And once I found there, and once I found the people there, we were able to bounce off each other, and they were able to show me different recording spaces and the likes. That's when I felt more at home in the city, put it that way.
yeah. Well, yeah, one of the benefits I always saw of the Dublin music scene, I'd like to get your opinion on this, is that I always found because because Dublin's such a small city, everyone kind of has to play the same venues and everyone's kind of like kind of consolidating in that just because like everything is so centralized in the city center, like
Mm.
so it's not really like say London or New York where like different boroughs, different neighborhoods, people are going to different places. In Berlin, is it more dispersed like that or is it more centralized?
It's more like centralized, as in just the locations themselves.
Yeah,
It'd be more spread like where Berlin it is. I'd say I have no idea if it's twice or three times the size of Dublin, but it feels like that in
yeah.
terms of how spread out it is.
I would imagine it probably would be something like that. Might even be bigger.
It might even be, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I would say it's definitely more spread out, but you do find yourself on a similar kind of circuit.
yeah,
There's it's you would have like what you would have in Dublin. We have like maybe someone playing, the smaller room of workmen's are playing the stage of Shinee or yeah, wherever, Grand
yeah,
Social, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Doing sports lots. Like you do find you kind of stay not level, but you stay in that kind of sort of venue.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
There's definitely a lot of venues, but they like few of them are closing down, but there's still a good variety, I would say. But I've definitely I've looped it a couple of times, and
yeah.
because you kind of have to, if you feel like you kind of I need to expand here, like.
But people in the scene, in the Berlin scene, that is, are open to. Do you find it are open to experimentation and trying new things?
Oh, completely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, definitely. They're like people in the Berlin scene, from my experience, in anyway, um, is the people are very open and welcome. And I know I come at the scene from possibly like from a privileged point of view, really, like 'cause
yeah.
an Irish singer-songwriter. You know what I mean?
Is there
You
novelty
know,
in that in Berlin? Is there like people like, oh, you're Irish, like get up and, or just expect Wrangling Road and
no, but we give them
yeah, that's fair.
it. No, but it's no. What I mean by that is that like there's a huge Irish scene, and a lot of them are involved in music. So
Yeah,
like it's by mutual connection. Like if you were to come in from out maybe outside of Europe, like
yeah,
you didn't know that many people, I would imagine it's much harder to get into the scene.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
Um, do you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, and it's interesting because every like German artist I've spoken to and stuff like that, especially ones from Berlin. I mean, I don't know if you agree with this. I don't know if you toured much outside the city, but like they say like, oh yeah, Berlin is kind of the exceptional. It's not like the what you get in Berlin isn't like a template for the country as a whole. And obviously Germany's such a massive country, like no one city could be realistically. But my understanding is that. I suppose you could say it's a similar thing to Dublin here, although I would argue Dublin is actually has a lot more similarities with places like Belfast and Cork, and to a lesser degree
Mm.
even Galway. But like, apparently in Berlin it is like such a unique city that's very different from the rest of Germany. I don't know if you can speak to that, but
Oh, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like it's uh see the thing is Berlin is no, this is just my 2 cents in it. Like, oh,
yeah.
like uh
I'm not asking you to
Berlin
be an
it,
ambassador for the entire Germany.
yeah. But no, it's like Berlin is still a divided city. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
like even if you look at the even the lights, the street lights are wired different. You know, the
Yeah.
buildings are different. The You have Strasses on the west of the city. You have them on the east, but then you have massive alleys on the east. Um, there's very few cities in the world that are like that. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
don't think it's uh, I can't speak too much about like the German experience of it, but I know for sure that it's because they because ever since since the wall collapsed, there's so much room to kind of you had to rebuild, but then you had to kind of rebuild your identity because there's half the city, half the people in the city, they don't like you have to live alongside them now, and like actually alongside, not divided by a wall. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of scope for kind of reinventing what it is to be a Berliner, and I don't think any other city in Germany was given that opportunity. Um, and it's like so vastly different. Do you know what I mean? Because you had the kind of perceived, at least, affluence of the West, and then the like Eastern Berlin combining. It's I think that the fact that they've reimagined their kind of identity is the defining factor of what Berlin is, maybe. Um, Also, you'd have like the music scene. You'd have like you have techno. I know techno is essentially an invention um, of Detroit and the African American community there. But
Hmm.
techno. One of the reasons why I think worked so well in Germany or in Berlin is because there's no discernible accent in it. It's you're unified in the kind of I hate saying it, the universal language of music,
Yeah.
but the universal language of like fucking heavy
D
beats.
don't be afraid to get romantic every now and again. Don't be afraid to.
That's I'm too
Don't be
much of a
afraid to be a
romantic, aren't you?
cliche every now and again. Sometimes
Yeah,
cliches
yeah.
have a purpose, you
I
know.
feel like I'm a fucking walking cliche sometimes.
What's that really unique insight you had? Oh, music connects people. I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now I have to
Fucking
ask,
philosopher here.
what would you say was a bigger cultural divide, East and West Berlin, but based on the Berlin Wall, or North and South Dublin based on the Liffey?
No, good one. Genuinely north and south of Liffey.
Well, the
100%.
interesting
Like,
thing about the East is that you still see some of the architectural differences, and this is a very trivial, small thing. But if you look at, the traffic lights they go and stop for pedestrians. It's
yeah.
really, for some reasons, they maintained the old ones they had in East Berlin, so the traffic lights are just totally different in East and West Berlin. It's pretty funny.
But that's what I'm saying about the street lights as well. It's because they're based on two separate power grids.
Yeah,
They've never rewired them. Do you
I
know what I
actually
mean?
didn't
It's
know that.
like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's the infrastructure. Like that's to me. The infrastructure can be more telling than the stories people tell.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try not to take up too much more of your time, man. I just wanted to ask.
No,
So
you're all good.
obviously, Day Parade came out about 2 years ago, and I was wondering. You mentioned like you're working on new music now. I mean, is the first album a good kind of I guess sort of indication of where the music's going now, or is it completely different?
It's no, it'd be a fair bit different, I would
Mm,
say. I won't give too much away about it. But it's more, I would say, from my perspective as a songwriter in it, it's more intentional
yeah,
as the songs go. The main kind of point for the second album was that uh, I have to be able to play every song on either the guitar or piano while singing it, and it has a similar effect
yeah,
as recorded and produced ones. I felt with the Day Parade, very proud of it, but I felt I kind of hid behind some of the production a little bit in it. So I'm kind of put myself kind of expose myself a little bit more with this one, I think.
And is the you mentioned it's going to be a record, so are you writing it as a cohesive piece in mind, like a cohesive record, or are you kind of taking a song at a time and then just kind of building a songbook from each individual song you're writing?
Yeah, well, I think this like sometimes it's uh well, it's like when you're writing a little short story, or if you're writing like a poem or whatever, maybe like there's the ending. Sometimes you don't really write with the intention of the ending. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? If you're in a short story format, the
yeah,
ending comes becomes revealed because you have to solve the puzzle in order to make the middle make sense. And
yeah,
for that middle to make sense, you had to make the beginning to make,
yeah. I get what you're saying.
I find that's kind of a similar kind of crack with when it comes to the album. You know what I mean?
And you're mentioning you have a show tomorrow. Now this is going to be out after that, but I just want to ask. So, are you coming back to Ireland doing shows here much, or is this kind of just like a one-off, catch me while I'm here kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
We yeah, we're doing it in Little Wheels tomorrow. And then I have Ash L supporting me. He's a pal of mine, and then I have a couple of lads from other bands. That we kind of did a bit of a patchwork of bands for tomorrow. Uh, but yeah, like this year, I'm not really focusing too much on gigging necessarily. It's mainly just like I need a record to get
yeah.
everything out basically. I'll be
What?
getting
What? So,
yeah, go on.
no, no. Finish what you're saying. I was gonna ask, like, what's it like to actually come home and do a hometown show after being away for a while?
That's not. It's yeah, it's decent. Like it's the only thing is I haven't put near enough time into Ireland. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like I suppose like as a songwriter, like it's because I'm based over there and gigging around Europe. It's like I even look at sometimes in like Spotify for artists, and I'm like seeing Belgium as my top listeners, and like and I don't think I've spoken to a Belgian person about my music at all. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
You gotta get over
I've got
there.
I do, yeah, honestly. Um, but it's no, I love being back in Dublin, and I love the scene, and yeah, like don't get me wrong, like I as much as like the city does have its issues, like I adore it, like
Yeah, nah, we're all right. We're grand.
yeah,
No, I
I'm
actually
doing
do
all right.
think, I do think actually sometimes, like this might be a tangent, but like I do think sometimes like I find like sometimes when Irish people are critiquing Ireland, and they have every right to, of course, but like sometimes I think their view can be a little myopic, where some of the issues
Mm.
that they're presenting as being uniquely Irish is actually much more universal, like struggles that are happening elsewhere. I don't know if you feel that way too, like that there are some things that perhaps maybe we take for granted here, and and there are obviously unique issues to Ireland too. So I'm not trying to dismiss that and say, oh, you're
No,
making a
no.
mountain out of a molehill or anything like that. I just think it's more nuanced than sometimes people present. I don't know if you have any feelings on that, but
No, yeah, I'd have to agree. Like it's to be able to walk freely down to the shop,
yeah,
and to be able to get in your car or like go down to the seafront, like uh it's the yeah I don't know, it's that the whole thing about comparing comparison could be often kind of tricky because sometimes you don't focus on the issues that are pressing, but like at the same time you have to have a little bit of fucking hope. You have to
yeah,
be appreciative of what you have. You know what I mean?
yeah,
we
totally.
still we still have a beautiful country here, like, and there's a lot of great people with, like unbelievable amount of talent. So we have to be grateful for that for sure. Like
And we still don't have to pay for war. That's the one good thing we have over the rest of Europe. We don't have to pay for war.
for water.
That's the one thing we have. That's my one fucking trump card. I'm like, yeah, we don't pay for war here, So
Yeah, absolutely.
perfect, man. I guess the final thing I'll just leave you with before I let you go is as the project expands and as you're kind of continuing doing your solo project, I mean, are you listening to new things or new things kind of creeping in that weren't there when you first began? Do you feel like,
Mm.
just as a music listener, that your kind of palette is expanding, or do you feel it's kind of like the music you're listening to is kind of still very similar to what it was when you began?
All right. Well, actually, no, it's definitely it's changed quite a lot. This is one that I won't say too much about it, but I'll be doing a new project um with a friend of mine over there that is very kind of electronica influenced and very kind of nearly Viagra Boys influenced.
Yeah,
Um, and like that, when I first came to Berlin, I was listening to, and I still do, but like, Bossa Nova and
yeah,
Jeff Buckley, Do you
yeah,
know what I mean? And which I still do, but it's yeah, no, 100%. It's like you have to let it creep in at times, you know.
yeah. Perfect,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Is there anything you'd like to have for a wrap up, Pat, and we didn't cover that you think people should know?
Well, I'll have like, this year to be a couple of songs. I'm gonna have three singles out this year, and hopefully the album next year. And I'll have a book of poems out this year,
Perfect.
which maybe you want to look out for. But no, apart from that, been
Where
a
where can
pleasure
people
chatting.
find all that information and all that? Plug, plug, plug.
Through, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can go through the website, jamienoone.net. I
Hmm.
don't know where I got that one. Net. Uh, and or Instagram or any of the social medias. You find me
Perfect.
there.
I'll link all that on the article, of course. All right, thanks, Jamie. Enjoy the rest of your day, and best of luck with the gig tomorrow too. I hope you
Sounds,
have
yeah.
fun.
Cheers, Smith. That was
Just
uh, that was a pleasure.
one thing I'll just say real quick is
Mm.
I won't have this out in time for the gig, but I'll plug it on like the socials and shit like that, so people can just find there.
Sound.
So, right.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
All
Jamie.
right.
Enjoy the rest of your time. It's very nice talking to you, man.
All right. Likewise. Cheers, man.
Best luck. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing, and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.